Video games are a unique form of media because of the choices that they afford players, ranging from complex moral dilemmas to things as mundane as the items you buy. But you can't control everything because of this little thing called To keep things fresh, developers will sometimes incorporate something called RNG into their games, which stands for Random Number Generation. It's a system that helps introduce chance-based outcomes, things like whether an attack lands or what item you get from a boss. It makes things dynamic and is similar to rolling dice in a board game. If you've ever played Mario Kart, you have experienced RNG. The items you get from the boxes are partially based on chance and partially based on what position you're in. This is part of the game's rubber banding system, whereby players in lower positions will get stronger items and those in higher positions will get weaker items. Introducing RNG into a race helps level the playing field. If you've fallen behind, you still have a chance at making a comeback, and if you're running away at the race, you should be very afraid. Not knowing what specifically is coming at you next is going to keep you engaged for all 3 laps. This is a psychological principle known as variable ratio reinforcement, whereby rewards are given out after an unpredictable number of actions. This is also the same principle that makes slot machines so lucrative. For games like Borderlands, for example, players are enticed by farming for items because the dopamine hit of finally getting a drop creates a strong, addictive gameplay loop that's going to keep a player engaged. These unplanned dice roll moments leave room for player expression, meaning that 2 people who play the same game may end up using entirely different tools because of RNG. I want to underscore, however, that luck or RNG in a game is not something you should just resign yourself to. In fact, I would argue that being lucky is a skill. Now, wait a second. That's a crazy statement to make, so give me a second, walk with me. Counting cards in blackjack is a way to help what the fuck helps you keep track of what card's going to be dealt next. While obviously not 100% accurate, the principle still remains. You are inferring what is going to happen next based on the information presented to you. In the end, it's about controlling the controllables and knowing when you should take risk. And from a spectator's point of view, these 1 in a million Hail Mary moments are incredibly exciting to watch. Things like a Game & Watch 9 or Phoenix Wright collecting all of his evidence in Marvel. These are characters who quite literally have the odds stacked against them, so pulling a win off with them is just that much more impressive. Hopefully you're starting to see that I'm not crazy when I say that luck is a skill. It can be immensely satisfying to watch someone essentially force an outcome out of a game, and in its own way is an emergent expression of a player's ability or skill. However, in a competitive setting, this is about where the good parts of RNG come to an end, because one day your luck's gonna run out.
But Rotom survives at 1 hit point. Just 1 hit point.
The clip you're seeing right now is from the 2013 Pokemon World Championships. It's a top 4 match between Aaron Zhang and Ryosuke Kasuge. Aaron is using the move Will-O-Wisp on one of his Pokemon, a move that, at the time, had a 75% accuracy rate. Aaron infamously had this move miss not once, not twice, but 5 consecutive times. The odds for that, by the way, are about 0.098%. Aaron, who initially had taken the lead in this set, ultimately lost due to a series of bad luck moments. And for the record here, 3rd and 4th place were awarded 20 grand at this tournament, and if you went all the way, you won $50,000. That is a life-changing amount of money that Aaron ostensibly lost due to chance. And this is an example of RNG at its worst. Players suffering consequences, not for a lack of skill or preparation, but purely because they just rolled the dice wrong. The developers realized how toxic moments were like these, and for all future generations, changed the literal mechanics of the game to prevent history from repeating itself. A change attributed to this very match. Earlier, I mentioned the rubber band effect in Mario Kart, which uses chance to level the playing field and sometimes intentionally hinder the more skilled player. The difference in context here is that one's on your couch with your little cousin Timmy, and the other is in a tournament for real thousands of dollars. Nintendo is very well known for incorporating things like these into their games, be it tripping in Brawl or bonus stars in Mario Party. Things that introduce variance into a game, and while are fun to experience casually, don't belong in a competitive setting. There's a reason you don't see a competitive circuit for Mario Party. Players don't want to compete in something that they can't exert a reasonable amount of control over. Like, the Super Bowl isn't fun to watch because of the coin toss. It's fun because you might watch Saquon Barkley hurdle another human. And since we're on the topic of coin flips and 50-50 chance, this is actually a hot topic in the competitive FGC. Games like Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 have shifted their design philosophies towards faster paced, more mix-up heavy interactions. I'm not saying we should outright eliminate these playstyles because they're fun to pilot and deserve a spot on the roster. However, we should also be careful not to empower them such that they are the predominant game plan. Games are fun to play because you have control over the decisions you make that influence the outcomes. 50/50s are, in a way, another form of RNG for a player to handle. Even if it is a genuine skill issue sometimes, explicitly taking away a player's ability to defend themselves and promoting this coin flip style of gameplay is going to, one, dumb down player expression, and two, just suck the fun out of it for both players and spectators. When it's all said and done, players will leave if a game is too heavily reliant on RNG and doesn't value player input. But that's not actually always the case, is it? What about the chase? The eventual dopamine hit. That, my dearest gentle viewer, is the paradox that is gacha is a Japanese toy vending machine where you put in a coin, turn a crank, and a toy is dispensed at random. It's kind of like a gumball machine. But Jack, how the fuck is a gumball machine related to RNG in video games? First of all, I'm not taking questions. Second of all, more than you might think. Back in 2008, widely popular soccer franchise FIFA introduced Ultimate Team Mode, where you could run your own club. Players for this virtual team are acquired via randomized card packs purchased with a premium in-game currency called FIFA coins. Sound familiar? At face value, this might not sound too bad. The issue is that you could pay real-world money for this fake in-game currency. Paying real-world money, however, didn't guarantee you a top-tier player. It guaranteed you a pack of cards with only about a 2% chance to pull a top-tier player. You could, however, try your luck at the in-game auction house and see if they're there for lower than market value. I would like to reiterate, this soccer game had its own microeconomy. And not only that, people were colluding to price fix certain players and manipulate the market value of FIFA coins. Some people, and some countries by the way, would call this gambling, and we saw this kind of monetization run rampant throughout the 2010s because companies realized that tapping into that variable ratio reinforcement was incredibly lucrative, especially when you combine it with a popular IP like Dragon Ball. Prime example, since its 2015 launch, Dokkan Battle, a mobile Dragon Ball Z game, has grossed over $3 billion with a B dollars. This accounts for more than 11% of all money ever made ever by the franchise. All from this one little app on your phone that I have spent an undisclosed yet socially acceptable amount of money on. Thankfully, we're starting to see countries crack down on these kind of monetization models, so this preying on the RNG savvy part of the human psyche will, fingers crossed, be phased out in the future. However, we can see with games like CS2 and their case openings that these practices are still alive and well. Twitch.com, the preeminent live streaming website, has even gone so far as to ban gambling minigames entirely from the site, which as an indirect result led to the founding of Kick.com, a competitor live streaming site with significant financial backing from Stake.com. Stake.com is an online crypto gambling site that lets you bet on esports and a variety of other things. Stake sort of operates in this legal gray area, and I expect it to garner more scrutiny as crypto as a whole is more closely examined. And I know it might seem strange for me to be talking about crypto, being that this video started out talking about Mario Kart. However, I think it's worth taking a closer look at how gamifying gambling and microtransactions might not necessarily be in your best interest. I'm sure those of you watching, especially if you're younger men, know of someone who's absolutely addicted to sports betting and probably grumbling about how their last parlay almost hit. I want to take a second and remind you that these companies don't give a shit about you and that they will drain every last dollar out of your wallet if you let them. Gaming as a whole is approaching this very weird intersection between entertainment and microtransactions that I think we need to be very wary of. As it currently stands though, microtransactions aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon. Games are moving towards a GaaS, or a games as a service model, so that they can secure more predictable, more recurring revenue. Things like a battle pass that promise future content and balance patches are something to get excited about. However, this is a video about RNG. And as we've seen with games like Overwatch, whether these promises are actually fulfilled can sometimes feel like another 50-50. I started writing this video because I was playing through a Ocarina of Time randomizer, and I was enamored by the fact that people would take time out of their day to create a mod that helps them relive a game that they love, like they're playing it for the first time again. And people should be afforded the choice to experience games in a fashion like this, where kind of like a roguelike, you are forced to adapt rather than memorize. However, what I want to communicate here is that this randomness should not extend outside of the gameplay. And what I mean is that in an economic landscape where I am paying sometimes $70, sometimes $80, even $90 for a game, I want a fully complete, fleshed out experience from day one. I don't want to gamble on the promise of one. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate the support. If you want to show a little extra love to the channel, since this video is not sponsored, consider leaving a like or subscribing. Even a thought or two down in the comments below helps me more than you know. My goal for 2025 is to publish one new video a month, and this is the video for March. As you can tell, we're halfway through April, so that's going swimmingly. However, that delay is because I got a puppy recently who you should be seeing on screen now. Her name is Faye, and I'm having an absolute blast raising her. But we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming soon enough. And I think we're going to do Elden Ring next. So stay tuned. Thanks again for the support. I'll see you on the next one. Be good. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. See ya.